Welcome to Mythology for You. Today we'll be learning about 5 Greek gods and goddesses you haven't heard of. 5. Britomartis. Britomartis, or the Sweet Maiden, is the goddess of fishing nets and hunting. She is a demigod and the daughter of Zeus. Her story starts in the kingdom of Crete, where King Minos was her king. He took interest to Britomartis and lusted over her. He wanted to marry her. One day, he attempted to lay his hands on her, and she fled. She ran off a cliff and into the fishing nets below, where the fishermen saved her. Artemis was within the group who saved her, and Britomartis became one of her first followers. It was through Artemis where she learned archery, how to hunt, and improved her trapping skills. Eventually, after one of their hunts, Artemis transformed Britomartis into a goddess. Number 4. Asclepius. Asclepius is the god of healing and medicine. His staff is a rod circled by snakes topped with wings, which is well known in the medicine world. He is a demigod and the son of Apollo. His story. Apollo and a mortal woman named Coronis fell in love. During Coronis's pregnancy with Asclepius, she fell in love with another mortal man and cheated on Apollo. Once Apollo became aware of this affair, he became enraged and told his sister Artemis to kill Coronis. While Artemis was burning Coronis on a funeral pyre, Apollo felt bad for his unborn son and went over to perform the first C-section by cutting his child out of Coronis. He gave Asclepius to his friend Chiron, a centaur who was extremely skilled in medicine. As Asclepius grew up, he learned from Chiron and became a legendary healer who walked through cities healing the sick. Through his legend, he acquired many gifts, one of which was a vial of Gorgon blood, specifically Gorgon blood from the right side of a Gorgon. For clarification, the blood from the left side of a Gorgon could kill a man, but the blood from the right side of a Gorgon could give life back to a dead person. With this vial, Asclepius was able to work wonders and save many people from dying. This, however, enraged Hades, who believed that those people Asclepius saved belonged to him. Zeus reluctantly agreed with Hades since the humans were mortal after all, and it was not natural for them to live forever. So Zeus struck down Asclepius with a thunderbolt and ended his healing path. With respect to the good that Asclepius brought to the world, however, Zeus honored him by putting a constellation of Asclepius in the sky so he could be remembered forever. Number 3. Phobos. Phobos is the god for fear and panic. His name comes from the word phobia, or fear. He is the son of Ares and Aphrodite, and the twin to Deimos. Phobos and his twin follow their father Ares around, mainly acting as assistants to him. They are important and found mostly in wars, where they accompany Ares. Some of the most famous wars that they are included in is the Trojan War, many Spartan wars, and the Persian War. Number 2. Psyche. Psyche is the goddess of the human soul. She is a mortal who married Eros. Her story. Psyche was born immortal and the youngest of the king's 3 daughters. She had beauty beyond mortals, and men would travel miles just to admire her. She was so beautiful, in fact, that she took the spotlight away from Aphrodite herself. Aphrodite's temples were being abandoned. There were no more sculptures being made. No one was bothering to pay attention to the goddess, only to Psyche. The goddess would not accept this and sent Eros, also known as Cupid, to make her fall in love with a hideous creature. The plan falls through when Eros sees Psyche, and he falls in love with her immediately. He could not bring himself to complete Aphrodite's scheme. On the other side, Psyche was becoming sad and lonely. Both of her sisters have found husbands, and she was unable to fall in love, and no one seemed to fall in love with her. They only came to admire her, but ended up marrying someone else. Desperate to give their last daughter a husband, the king visited the oracle of Delphi for advice on how to find Psyche a husband. The oracle said that Psyche needed to dress in all black, travel to the top of a mountain, and lay alone. Her husband would be a winged serpent at the top of the mountain, and it would take her as his wife. So that's what she did. Fearfully, Psyche climbed the mountain in all black and sat at the top, trying to forget her fate, and went to sleep. When she woke, she found herself in a grand castle. Words could not describe its beauty and riches. A voice whispered to her, telling her to enter the castle, bathe, and eat. The bath was refreshing, and the food was exquisite. She believed that her husband was not a serpent, but a loving man. After a week in the castle, she began to feel sad and homesick for her sisters. So when night arrived, she asked her husband to allow her sisters to come up to the castle. He agreed, but warned her that if she let their negative words cause doubt, then their relationship would be ruined. She agreed, and her sisters came up the next morning. The two sisters saw the castle and became jealous of the riches and happiness that came from Psyche's marriage. They decided to try to ruin it by telling Psyche that the reason he won't show his face during the day is because he is actually an evil, ugly serpent, and is worried that if she saw him, she would flee. They laughed at her for sleeping with such a horrible creature. After the sisters left and night came, Psyche came up with a plan. She would light a candle at midnight and see what her husband was. If he was a serpent, she would leave immediately. But if he was not, then she would turn off the candle and go back to bed without him knowing. At midnight, she turned on the candle and looked to the other side of the bed at her husband. He was the most handsome man she had ever seen. Relief poured over her as she stared at him. She took too long to douse the candle, however, and a drop of wax fell and hit her husband's back, who woke up, saw his wife's betrayal, and left without another word. Filled with grief at her mistake, Psyche ran to Aphrodite's temple and asked the goddess to persuade her son to take her back. Aphrodite said that she must pass 3 tests. If she fails even one of them, then she would never see Eros again. Psyche agreed. For the first task, Psyche was ordered to separate a large pile of poppies, millets, mustard, and wheat seeds in one day. She was devastated. How could she do it in such a short amount of time? A colony of ants was passing by and saw Psyche's distress. They offered to help her and successfully separated the seeds by afternoon. Aphrodite was enraged. The second task, Psyche was ordered to fill a bottle with black water from the river Astige, which was surrounded by slippery, sharp, and deadly rocks. It was impossible for a human to achieve this. Seeing her sadness, an eagle grabbed the bottle in its talons and scooped up the water, returning it back to Psyche. Aphrodite was even more enraged. How does Psyche keep passing these tests? She knew it was impossible, and Psyche was getting help somehow. She needed Psyche to fail. So for the third task, Psyche was ordered to go to Persephone's castle in the underworld and fill a box up with her portion of beauty. Psyche did exactly that. She traveled to the underworld, crossed the river Styx, and walked right up to Persephone's castle, asking Persephone to fill up a box with her beauty. And Persephone fulfilled her request. Once Psyche returned to Earth and showed Aphrodite the box, Aphrodite became beside herself with anger. She yelled at Psyche and told her that she would never release her and she would never see Eros again. The gods, however, have been watching the whole time and sent Hermes to tell Eros about the trials and how loyal Psyche was and how badly she wanted to take him back. Eros, hearing this, forgave his wife's betrayal and released Psyche from his mother. They eventually got married, and, as a wedding gift, Zeus made her the goddess of the human soul for her pursuit of true happiness. And last, Tyche. Tyche is the goddess of luck, destiny, and fortune. She is the daughter of Hermes and Aphrodite. She is not shown in many stories, but it is said that Tyche is required by Zeus to give man two paths, one towards freedom and the other towards imprisonment. The path towards freedom starts difficult and there are many obstacles in the way, but in the end it is enjoyable and beautiful. The path towards imprisonment starts out easy and looks like the good path, but in the end becomes dreadful and untraversable. Those were 5 Greek gods and goddesses you haven't heard of. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a little bit more about Greek gods and goddesses.